If you don't pay your bills on time, it goes on your credit score and goes to the credit bureau.
You have to pay interest fees on top of your bills, and so then you owe more money than you did before.
The IRS will come and get you.
If you don't pay your bills on time, you're in a jam. The bank will mess you up, I guess. Take away your stuff.
If you're unable to pay the minimum payments, use the pro rata plan. The pro rata plan is the next form in the book. Let me walk you through how that works. Again, you may not need this, but you probably do need someone that does. And if you'll give them this system, you will keep them out of a lawsuit until they can work their plan and get their debts paid honorably. And control this collections people. Always have caller ID. Always have call blocker. Always have an answering machine with a memo button where you can record the call. When you learn these steps and you learn these laws, I've got a young man, 19 years old. This happened just the other day. He was just telling me this. 19 years old. His brother owed, I think it was like $1,400 or $1,500 to this credit card company. He was behind with them, and they were calling him like 16 times a day. They were yelling at him. They were calling him in off hours. They were breaking the law 6 ways, this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. So the phone rings. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. 19-year-old picks up the phone because I'd shown him this stuff, hits the memo button, starts recording, and says, "You are being recorded. It's 5 a.m. in Nashville, Tennessee, and this is what's going on. And you're with so-and-so." Well, the guy on the other end apparently hadn't been trained well, and he just starts into his routine. Starts, blah, 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 blah. Your brother, which is also a violation of privacy, owes us money. You're not allowed to discuss an account with someone else. And he recorded the whole thing. So he said, "Thank you very much," and he hung up the phone. Picked up the phone, called him right back, and said he needed the legal department. Got legal on the line, and said, "I want you to hear something," and he played it back. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm recording your call in Nashville, Tennessee, and played it back. And legal said, "Okay, what kind of deal you want?" Because he knew he had them. A 19-year-old settled that account with one memo button push. So you can too. And you can teach people to take care of their stuff. Now, not to abuse and not to duck a bill. We're making that real clear, aren't we? Say yes. Yes. Okay, just to not be abused. Now let's go back to Joe and Susie's budget. Joe and Susie have $3,361 coming in this month. When they run their necessities budget, it is $3,161. Which leaves them what's called disposable income to pay on their credit cards and other miscellaneous bills, $200. To make it easy for math purposes, we're going to say they have total debt, unsecured, of $2,000, a bunch of little credit cards. The payments on the $2,000, a bunch of little credit cards, adds up to be $310. They only have $200. They don't have $310. Do you understand the problem? We're a little short this month. But we got some of it. Now we've got two choices. We can either pay some of them and let the others just ride. That's one option. And then you're going to have, those others are going to be continually getting worse and worse and worse. And you're going to make a mess. Instead, we recommend trying this plan. There's no guarantees with it, but at least you're being honorable and you're doing all you can do with what you have. I want you to spend the $200 that you have as fairly as we can. The fairest way I know is pro rata. In other words, what percentage of the $2,000 is a given debt? And they're going to get that percentage of the $200. Now that sounded like a barrel of fish hooks. Let's walk through it. Looking at the actual form, if you look, you'll see Visa, the third one down, we've got MBNA Visa as an example, is owed $200 of the $2,000. They could be paid off for $200. Do you see that? Say yes. Yes. So if there's a total debt of $2,000 and they are $200, do you see that they're 10% of the problem? So they're going to get 10% of the money we have to spend, which is $200. 10% of $200 is 20 bucks. Now, if MBNA's minimum payment is $32, are they going to be happy with 20? The answer is no. They're still going to scream, you're still behind, you are still dinging up your credit. Are they going to sue you? Technically they can. You're in default on the agreement, but they never will. Because if you send them this sheet with a cover letter saying this is all I can do, and here's a copy of my overall budget, everything above that is necessities, here's all the other people that I owe, so be scared because I'm bankruptcy looking for a place to happen, and Here's all the other people that I owe, and here's the story of how we got in the mess, and here's the things we're doing, and stapled to it is a check for $4.62 or for $20 or whatever the pro rata amount is, and you show them how you arrived at that, and you send them that certified mail. They'll cash the check. It does not obligate them to not sue you, but they won't because it messes up their software because they see deposits on the account. There's activity that's positive on the account, and they won't put a bullet in a horse that's limping. That's the way they look at it. That's the way they look at it. They're going to keep you alive as long as they can. They're getting something. You totally stonewall them, ignore them, send them a cease and desist letter, they'll sue your tail. And they probably should because you owe them money. So you're going to give them all you can with what you have and give them their fair share. Now, this won't go on for 2 years and you make it. So you need to get the extra job and do the stuff we talked about with Gazelle Intensity to get out of debt. But for several months, 4, 5, 6 months, while you're fighting the bear with a switch, you can walk your way through this and keep them off of you. We have never had a client who does this every single month for less than 6 months. I've never had them in 6 months get sued. Now, if you try to do it for 2 or 3 years, eventually they're going to catch up with you. They're not going to tolerate you just not paying them, right? But you're doing all you can, and it registers in their software, and it registers in the way they process this stuff. They're still going to call you. They're still going to harass you. It doesn't stop any of that. But you can just go, it's not 2 weeks. Pro rata plan, look at it. You know, and it's in your file. We know you got it because it was certified mail. Every time I send it, I got proof you got it. Now, by the way, the check cleared too. Hello. Never give them electronic access to your checking account, ever. Now, if everything else fails and you do get sued, let's talk about lawsuits. Typically, lawsuits for under $10,000 are sued in something like small claims court or general sessions court. This is an informal proceeding. How many of you have ever been to something like traffic court for getting a ticket? The first time you went, were you kind of like me? You were a little scared, a little bit intimidated. I'm going to court. Ooh. And then after you've been there a couple times, you're like, I'll take the film. The intimidation kind of goes away, doesn't it? You know what I'm saying? Small claims court is about like traffic court. It's not a real formal. It is a judge. It is a proceeding. You don't want to mess with them. You don't want to be dishonorable. You don't want to be a smart aleck in there. You end up in the jail, all right? But go in there with reverence like you should in any courtroom, but it is not some big thing. I mean, Matlock's not going to come strolling in with a jury. You can go in there and just talk to the judge, and he'll talk, and it's like Judge Wapner. You know, we're going to sit here and talk this out, and they'll work with you on things. Before you get sued, you're going to be served by the local sheriff's department and typically given 10 days' notice. That's how lawsuits work in most states. In court, if the debt is valid, you're going to lose. If you fight, it doesn't matter. The only question is, do you owe the money? Is this your debt? Yes, yes, judgment. You lose the lawsuit. It's not about whether you're broke. It's not a lawsuit of your character. They don't want to hear your story. It's, do you owe the money? Yes. Did you sign for this debt? Yes. Have you paid them? No. Lawsuit, done. You lose. That's judgment rendered, okay? So don't expect to win, but understand how the process works. From that date, you'll have 30 days before the judgment becomes final and garnishments or attachments can begin. So they're not going to scarf your bank account that day. They're not going to garnish you your wages that day. So during that 30 days, you could sit down with that attorney and work out a payment plan. Lots of times. And really, that works pretty good because most of these attorney firms that do these lawsuits, the paralegals run everything, and they're really pretty smart. You're dealing with intelligent life again. And you can really get something going where you couldn't get a collector. I was dealing with a collector one time. Guy hadn't paid him in 5 years. It's an old Citibank card. Hadn't gotten a bill in 5 years. I called him up trying to settle it. He goes, we're going to sue him tomorrow. I said, it's been 5 years. I'm sorry. I don't believe you. You cried wolf, okay? 5 years you're going to sue him. Now you're going to sue him tomorrow. We're going to sue him tomorrow. I said, great, sue him. At least I'll get to talk to Intelligent Life. What's the attorney's name? He didn't know. So apparently he didn't have the lawsuit really prepared, did he? And you just got to kind of walk that through. So again, when the judgment becomes final, it's not the end of the world. You still can work out something and not get garnished or not have them come pick up stuff at your house. There's all kinds of things you can do. If you're not able to reach an agreement, you can even go back into court and file a slow pay motion. And the court in sometimes in some areas it's called a pauper's oath, where you go and go, I'm going to pay a little bit because that's all I got. And they'll start taking your pro rata plan. A lot of judges will look at that kind of a thing. Now again, there's no legal situation here. I'm giving you the common sense application of a really stressful situation. That's how credit sharks and suits works. Now, a lot of times people get behind and they're offered then the ability to settle a debt. They owe Citibank $2,500, or they owe MBNA $3,000, and they'll call up if there's a $3,000 debt and it's way behind. They hadn't paid it in 6 or 8 or 10 months, and they're trashed, and they'll call up and say, well, you owe us $3,000, but if you'll pay us off today, we'll take $1,500 or we'll take $1,700. That's called settling a debt. Here's how you do that if you're going to do that, and you shouldn't do that if you have the money to pay the bill. If you got $20,000 laying in the bank, you should pay the bill you owe. But if you hadn't got any money and you could scratch up $1,500 to settle a $3,000 or $4,000 debt, you should do that. And that would be a good idea. Always get it in writing. I've got an old attorney friend of mine that says if it's not in writing, it never happened. Get it in writing. Never give them electronic access to your checking account to debit your account for that amount, because they'll clean out everything in there. Try going into the judge and going, well, we settled, and they told me on the phone that they'd take $1,500, and they took $4,000 out of my account. And the judge said, how much you owe him? I owed him $5,000. He said, so you still owe him $1,000. He's not got any sympathy for you. It's not, so they will zap your account against your agreement. Do not let them have access to your account under any circumstances. Send them a money order or a cashier's check or something like that. Keep them away from your numbers. Never give them post-dated checks. They will cash them. I know they're not supposed to. It's illegal. But they do it anyway. I've been telling you for an hour. They break federal law on a daily basis. This is an industry that's out of control. So you have to put these barriers up. So if you're going to settle, get it in writing and send them a cashier's check. Keep a copy of that cashier's check and that letter that says, we accept on this account this amount as settled in full. Settled in full. And you keep that piece of paper the rest of your life. Because 15 years from now, you're going to get a call. Or your next door neighbor's going to get a call. And they said, there's some collections guy up in New York hunting you. And you'll go over there and you call him back, and well, I settled that account. Yeah, we'll prove it. Okay, you got the piece of paper, and it's over. But if you don't keep the piece of paper, you'll have to get to paying on it again. So keep up with it, because these people, you can tell they're lying if their mouth is moving.